So we are here today to talk about the higher ed and pre-college program solicitations. And then in the following hour, we're going to talk about the research infrastructure ones, if anybody's also interested in those. I'm going to share my screen here. So I always start these meetings by showing you how to find our solicitations, just in case anybody is not that familiar with our programs. So what you see here is our website. All of our funding opportunities are there. You can get to this. In fact, I don't even have this one bookmarked. I just type in Google Nevada NASA programs, and the top hit is always this page. All of our funding opportunities you can find right under the tab that says funding opportunities. Right now we have our scholarship and fellowship applications open as well for students. So you'll see that at the top. And then if you scroll down, you'll see all of our faculty solicitations that are open. Pretty much all of our most of our solicitations are open from this December to March timeframe. So you'll see this time of year, you'll always see a bunch of opportunities here. At the top of the list are the pre-college and higher ed programs. That's what we're here to talk about. So if you click, I'll just use the pre-college as an example. If you click there, that takes you to a page specific to that program, explains a little bit the focus of the program, the difference between the teacher training option and the hands-on training options. We'll talk about this more as we go along. Eligibility, some details about the funding, the period of the project performance there, an announcement of this webinar that you're attending right now, and then the full solicitation, the PDF file of the full solicitation is available at this link. And then also the key thing is to submit a proposal. If you're submitting to the pre-college, the actual link to submit your proposal is here at the bottom of this page. So you'll actually be submitting your proposal through our webpage. We're going to go through some of these details, but I'm going to do it through the PDF file. So let me I'll just use the pre-college as an example. Widen this so that it make it a little bigger. Let's see, here's the cover page. Key thing here is the deadline. Deadline is Friday, February 27. We've moved up the deadlines for our faculty programs slightly compared to where they were in previous years. I think we did that last year is when we moved that up, and that's partly because NASA is putting a little bit more pressure on us to spend our money a little faster than we were in the past, and giving us a little less latitude to let our money kind of extend from one year to the next. So we slid our schedule.
I'm in a webinar, but it's not a big deal. What's up?
Isabella, could you go ahead and mute me? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So the deadline for this is February 27, 5 p.m. Pacific time. We strongly encourage you to not wait until 4:55 to submit your proposal. We do occasionally run into technical glitches where people try to submit through the website and they run into a technical problem. It's better for us if you submit through the website because we collect some information from you through a web form as you and then ask you to attach your PDF file with your proposal. And so it's easier for us to capture all that information. But if you run into a technical glitch while trying to upload and you start to panic because the deadline's coming up, we will accept proposals by email, but only if we receive that email before 5 p.m. in order to keep it fair. So to avoid running into trouble, just be sure to start your submission well in advance of 5 p.m. on the deadline day to allow for any unexpected problems that might crop up. The other key thing about all of our solicitations, we use the attachment feature on PDF files. So when you download the PDF file of the solicitation, don't just open it up in your web browser or in some third-party PDF viewer. Open it up in Adobe Acrobat. And if you open it up in Adobe Acrobat, as I have done here, there's a little paperclip icon on the right, and you click there, and you'll see that there's a whole bunch of supporting documents attached to our solicitation. And you'll need these. So like one of these is the cover page document that you'll have to fill out. One of these is the budget template, which you'll also have to fill out, and you'll actually have to have that signed as well by an official in your sponsored project office. And then there's there's a template for the biosketch. NASA is now obligating proposers to its programs to have their CVs in this NASA biosketch format, which is similar, I understand, to efforts that are going on in other agencies and efforts to kind of standardize this across the federal system, the federal funding system. So we're asking people who submit to our programs to fill out that biosketch form as well. And then some other supporting documents that we'll talk about as we go along here. So close that for now. So the pre-college projects come in two flavors. Well, actually, let me do that first, and then we'll go back to the money that's on offer. The teacher training is the primary focus is implementation of programs to train pre-service teachers who plan to teach STEM topics at K through 12 schools, or in-service teachers to help them infuse NASA-related content into K to 12 classrooms. That's the main goal. We're particularly interested in training teachers to provide these pre-college students with hands-on activities in STEM topics, or to develop teams that can compete in some of the challenges, particularly the NASA-supported challenges, which are open to school-aged kids. So if you've seen any of those challenges that NASA sponsors and you're interested, we can help with funding for that through this program. In addition, we're interested in supporting the training opportunities for teachers to enhance their knowledge in specific STEM topics that attract students to STEM disciplines. And then there's some more specific bullet points here. Hands-on training is a little bit different. These are targeted to provide STEM pre-college students experiences for learning outside the formal classroom with hands-on training in a topic or an activity that's related to a STEM topic of interest to NASA. So extracurricular training, hands-on experience in a NASA Mission Directorate topic area, developing curricular materials to provide pre-college students with hands-on science or engineering activities, collaboration with Space Grant Learning Center affiliates is encouraged but not required. So if you want to engage the planetariums or observatories at the colleges, for example, this would be an appropriate program to engage with them. There's some more bullet points here. The informal education activities must include inclusion of supplemental materials regarding NASA science or engineering related content. Hands-on training content must be based on state educational standards and learning objectives. Let's get back up here to some of the details in terms of the funding opportunity. The awards will be $22,250 in federal funds. And then, Marcy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a switch from some of the previous years we have some state matching funds available for these programs, which wasn't always the case before. So we ask that in your budget, you include up to $22,250 of a combination of state special project match funds, which we will also be providing, and unrecovered F&A funds, overhead funds on those state matching funds. So because your F&A rates differ from campus to campus, we can't specify exactly what those numbers are. If you have any questions about constructing your budgets, please reach out to us. We will have Arlene probably, and if not Arlene, then Marcy provide you some technical assistance if you need it for that.
Well, that's correct, and we're excited we're able to offer some cash match this time instead of having the institutions do it.
Period of performance is expected to be June through May. These are one-year awards. Student participation is encouraged and can be included in your overall budget. So you can provide funding to students to engage in this activity. We encourage you to reach out to your sponsored project office when you begin thinking about your project and have them work with you preparing your budget as soon as possible, because questions often arise in constructing the budgets. And then as those questions arise, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can help answer those questions. Eligibility, faculty at any NSHE institution are eligible for these awards. Proposal guidelines. Let's see. As I said, you submit your proposal through our website at the link that I noted on the website, in this case for the pre-college one. As part of that submission process, you will prepare a PDF file of your actual proposal and supporting documents, and you will be uploading a single PDF file in addition to the web form that we ask you to fill out as part of that submission process. So as I noted, in the attachments on this PDF file is the cover page form. Please fill that out. Then you will write a project proposal. The narrative for that has a 4-page maximum. Included in that 4 pages is a title, an abstract of no more than 300 words. Tell us what are the roles and responsibilities of the project participants. Please, if you can, tell us the anticipated number of faculty and student participants. If you're doing teacher training, how many teachers you anticipate participating in the project. If it's a hands-on training, how many pre-college students you hope to reach with the program. What are the objectives, the methods, anticipated outcomes of the project. Plans for sustainability of your project. So if you intend for this project to be ongoing, what are plans that you have for other sources of funds to sustain this project in an ongoing manner? Collaborators, any industry collaborators, other campus collaborators, center partners. We do encourage in all of our programs, we encourage outreach to NASA personnel. In these cases, this might be somebody related to the STEM education activities within NASA. And those might be people at NASA centers. There's a lot of STEM ed folks at the NASA centers. If you need help making contact with somebody at NASA, please reach out to me. I might be able to help with that. Provide a timeline for the project. As I said, there's a period of performance from June to May, but often, particularly these sorts of educational programs are sort of focused on a specific semester or an academic year. or a school year, please be specific about what the schedule for the actual project is. Exactly where will the activity happen, especially if you're going to be engaged in out at a school campus or taking pre-college kids to some other location. And then the detail of how you're going to implement. And there's a key point here, a couple key points. In addition to the details, the materials, how you're going to be presenting the materials, how you're going to be training, where you're going to be sourcing materials from, all of those kinds of details that you would put in a proposal. Again, please state your plans for student involvement. What are the students you're targeting? How are you going to recruit students if student involvement is involved? Please provide an evaluation plan. So how are you going to know at the end of your project that your project had real impact? And then all of our activities, we have to report back to NASA what the relevance of activities we have funded with these funds, what relevance they have to NASA's Mission Directorate research priorities. So you'll find under the paper-clipped documents here, I'll just open this up again, a couple of documents. There's the most recent NASA strategic plan, which dates back to 2022. Which is getting pretty old, but there's a new NASA administrator. So I presume at some point in the next year or so, we'll see a new NASA strategic plan. But that's the most recent one. Please reference that if you can. There's also this more detailed document, this NASA priorities document. This is a document that's provided to us through our NASA EPSCoR program, which provides details on NASA's mission directorates, details on specific focus areas of NASA's missions, of NASA's centers, some of the missions and how they align with some of the centers or the mission directorates. So please consult that document for more specific details than you'll find in the NASA strategic plan. And then any questions about that, also feel free to reach out to me. I'm not an expert in everything NASA does, but I'm reasonably familiar with a lot of NASA's activities. So I can either help with that, or I can help put you in contact with somebody who can maybe answer questions about NASA relevance. Let's see, I felt like there was something else I was going to say. Hopefully it'll come back. And I believe in our web form, when you submit, we may ask you what NASA mission directorate your project is best aligned with. Again, that's because NASA asks us to report that information. So it's really helpful for us if we can do a mapping between the individual projects that we fund and the mission directorate's activities that those projects are aligned with, because then we can report that information back to NASA. So again, that's why this is important. And again, if there's any questions about that, if you're not sure, please reach out to me, because I can help work that out for you. And that's helpful, again, to me to make that connection concrete, because I have to report back to NASA on that. We talked about the budget again. There's a budget template in the attached documents. Please use that template to make up your budget. Please work with your sponsor project office. They will have to sign the budget, so you're going to have to work with them at some point anyway. The budget justification, I believe there's a template for that too. Is that correct? Or maybe not. Maybe not for that.
I'm sorry, a budget template for
the budget justification?
No, they use their own
Okay.
Standard for their institution.
Okay, yeah. So look at the details here for content for a budget justification. There are some restrictions on travel. For example, foreign travel may be allowed, but we'd have to get approval from our sponsor for that. So you have to reach out for us. There's some restrictions on equipment purchases from specific vendors by federal law. So we have to be compliant with those laws. So look here for those details. And then for the lead PI, if you've received funding in the past from Space Grant or NASA EPSCoR programs in the past 5 years, please give us a little listing of results from prior recent funding through Space Grant and EPSCoR sources. And then the biographical sketch, which I mentioned earlier, please use the template that's attached. And then the submission guidelines, again, you're going to use the link that's on the website. Should be the same link that's linked here in the solicitation. Please use 1-inch margins and 12-point font. Don't shrink that font in order to get more content into the page limit. We cannot have proposals that are submitted after the deadline or incomplete proposals reviewed. So we do, and this does happen from time to time. So if your proposal is incomplete or doesn't reach us by 5 p.m. on that deadline, we can't get it reviewed. And then note here, we'd like you to use a specific naming convention for the PDF file that you upload. I get these proposals externally reviewed by a panel, I should say internal to NSHE, usually external to me in my office. I reach out to faculty from across NSHE for all of the programs to get these proposals reviewed. I use a different panel for, usually it's the same panel for the higher ed and the pre-college, but it's a different panel from the panels that review the research proposals. So I do seek individuals with some prior experience with the kind of content that we see in these pre-college and higher ed proposals to get them reviewed if I can. But I can't guarantee that any of the reviewers will have expertise in your specific discipline or the specific topic or the specific method that you're applying. So please make sure that your proposal is written using language that is accessible to a broad cross-section of people who are knowledgeable broadly in topics of STEM, and in this case, STEM education. Don't use a lot of disciplinary jargon. They will evaluate your proposal on how clearly the plan is articulated, how convincing the goals and objectives are, how convincing it is that the methods proposed are going to achieve the goals and objectives. They will evaluate your proposal on its relevance to NASA and its mission director priorities. So again, you'll want to have a section of your proposal that actually talks about that as specifically as you can. Your plan to engage students, especially for the hands-on training. How are you going to get your project connected with a cohort of students to participate in the activity? Who are those students? What student groups are you targeting? Are you targeting a specific cross-section of students? Is it open to all students? All those kinds of details. Again, the anticipated impact and your plan for evaluation will be evaluated, and the budget and the timeline will also be evaluated. And then we ask for some reporting. In our programs, we typically send a report template to you fairly early in the fall. That's because NASA asks us to provide some data in the fall, including contact information for students that participate in our programs. And so we do ask for contact information for or appropriate contact information for project participants, even if your project is still active and not complete in the fall. And then we do ask for a final report. We also ask for some highlights. We get asked by NASA all the time to provide more plain language, in addition to the kind of report that you would submit to a program manager on the technical aspects of your project and its outcomes. We also get asked to provide sort of more general interest highlight information, photos of people participating in a space grant activity, those kinds of things that we can highlight to NASA that NASA can then highlight. There's a particular emphasis on that under the new NASA leadership. There's the space grant leadership at NASA headquarters is feeling a great deal of pressure to demonstrate the value of these programs. The funding for space grant is not necessarily assured going forward. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of pressure on us to provide content to help make the case for space grant. So we pass that along to you through the reporting processes for these. Do note that we have a release form for students if there are images that have students in them. We do have a release form that we need to have minors. We need a signature that for actually, I believe for all people that appear as recognizable in images that we send to NASA, we need to have that release form. If your proposal is selected for funding, we will ask you to provide a headshot or photo of you working in the lab. And again, that media consent form. We do post information on our website about active projects that we have funded. Let's see. And then our contact information is at the bottom here. And again, the link to our website, which is where you will submit your proposal. And I think that's it for me. Darlene or Marcy, any other details that I didn't catch that you wanted to mention?
Nothing for me. I think you hit it all.
Okay. Great. Let me just quickly, I'll bring up because this was the pre-college one. I have the higher ed one open here as well. It's pretty identical. Let me just talk about the specifics of those and then I'll open it up for questions. So funding is on offer is the same, eligibility is the same. Really the only difference here is the type of project. So, and those details are here on pages 2 and 3. So there are 2 types of projects under the higher ed moniker. So this would again be projects that are targeting higher ed students, not pre-college students. And the 2 flavors here are the curriculum development. So this is the primary focus for a curriculum development would be to establish a new course or revise a course or materials for a course that is being offered at one of the colleges or universities here in Nevada. We're particularly interested in funding programs that infuse materials or content that originates from NASA or content that is directly related to a NASA mission directorate priority areas. Again, it will be up to you in your proposal to articulate how your project is relevant to those. Projects that include development of interdisciplinary classes utilizing and implementing NASA mission directorate content, as well as senior design courses or senior research projects are encouraged. Goal here is to provide college students with NASA STEM content that they might not otherwise receive or come into contact with. And then the goal from NASA's perspective is that this leads to improved opportunities for those students to engage in careers that are related to NASA's interests or or even careers with NASA. Curricular development projects should have a clear progression from initiation to the class content actually being offered. So any specifics you can provide in terms of when you expect the course to actually be offered, and any justification or proof that you can provide on that certainly helps strengthen your proposal. And then the hands-on training, the primary focus here is to establish new, authentic STEM hands-on training activities for college students that utilize NASA-related interdisciplinary content. We're particularly interested in funding topic areas that target topics, again, that are listed in NASA Mission Directorate priority list. So like in all of our topics, you want to tie your activity back to NASA's Mission Directorate priorities. And as noted earlier, you may include development for teams, college student teams, to compete in some of the STEM or engineering challenges that NASA sponsors. So that's definitely a use of these funds. And this just sort of restates the relevance issue. There's a long sort of bullet list here of proposal areas that you should address one or more of these. So please consult the list here. I won't read through this entirely, but look through there. Connect as best you can to any of these bullet points, and then again, connect as best you can to NASA's priority areas. And again, reach out to me if you have questions about how to establish those connections, or you have an idea, but you're not sure if it's connected. NASA's interests might be more broadly than you think if you're not that familiar with NASA and its interests. So please don't hesitate to reach out and we can talk about it. As far as the details of what goes in the proposal, I think it's pretty similar to what we already went through. So I won't read through this. And just scrolling up to the top, the deadline is the same for these. So both the higher ed and the pre-college are due February 27 by no later than 5 p.m. So with that, I think I will open it up to questions. If there are any questions, now's your chance. Jacob, go ahead.
Hi, Eric. Thanks a lot for the helpful presentation. It was really informative. I'm interested in applying for the higher ed grant and had a question about it specifically. So the two areas are curriculum development and hands-on training. I'm currently working on a project that does both of those things in very clear and distinct ways. And I wondered if it was possible to apply for both grants in both areas, or if that would be discouraged, or if that would be against the rules. Do you see what I'm asking?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. I don't think we have an explicit restriction from submitting two proposals. Is that correct, Marcy, or am I wrong?
Not in this one, I don't think we do. We have a restriction between the RID for EPSCoR and the Research Infrastructure for Space grant. So I don't think that there's actually a restriction on this. I was just trying to do a quick search.
Yeah,
I don't think that there is.
I don't think so either. I guess one question I would have is would one be dependent on the other? So, because typically I have proposal, each proposal I receive is sort of reviewed as an independent proposal. So it opens up the possibility that one could get selected and the other not selected. So you should, you should write it in such a way that they're not dependent on one another if you can.
Yes, we can do that, and they functionally are independent of one another. The funding would be separate, but used in the same project in two different kind of ends of it, essentially. So they would be. Is that kind of thing frowned upon? I'm just asking candidly.
I don't think so. I think you just have to be careful, when you say, they'll be used, the funds from the two would be used in the same project in different ways. You just have to it would probably come to you as two separate grants, and we probably ask that you do the reporting separately,
Yep.
so it'll double up on your reporting, unfortunately for you, but also we would expect that you be careful about not letting the funds sort of bleed from one into the
Yes.
other,
Yep.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Marcy, did you
perfectly
want to
understand.
elaborate on that?
Yes, they would definitely be the separate grants. We have to report these separately to the NASA Space Grant folks. You would need to ensure that they were two separate pots of money. Yeah, and agree with Eric, one may get funded, the other may not. So they need to be independent completely.
Understood. Oh, that's perfectly clear. Thank you very much for the clarification. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
sure. Other questions? Yeah, Brian. You're muted.
Okay, good. You can hear now, right?
Yep.
This might be a question just specific for me. I'm also interested in the curriculum development because we've all been asked to propose new upper division courses. So I was thinking about astrobiology or maybe life in extreme environments, but I don't think there's any conflict with my being a co-PI and the NASA EPSCoR. There's no conflict with like the match or anything, is there?
For these, I don't believe so. We do have, I believe, for some of the research infrastructure programs, there is an eligibility restriction. I'm just double checking here.
No, there's not a eligibility restriction on this one.
Yeah.
So just because of the nature of the projects. So you should be fine.
And this might be a question that Jacob might be thinking too, I don't know, but I was thinking, that a one-page syllabus would be an appropriate part of this proposal, just outlining the whole class schedule. I have to do it anyway. Is that a crazy idea, or does that make some sense?
Not necessarily. I guess I would say we haven't allowed for that to be included as a supplementary piece of material. So I think for fairness, it would have to be included within the 4-page restriction. I think that would be the only limitation. So you may not want to have it, sort of broadly formatted with lots of white space for easy reading if it's going to impede your meeting the page limit. That would be the only restriction. But yeah, I mean, I think that level of detail would be great in the sense that, if you've already got the skeleton of the course outline. In fact, I mean, I would kind of expect that to be the case. If this program gets more competitive, then courses that are more thought out in that way will probably be more competitive. This program is not particularly competitive, I will say. So if you have other friends and colleagues that you don't mind competing with, encourage them to apply as well, because we're improving the competitiveness of these programs is one of our goals.
Okay.
So we'd like to see more proposals.
And others may not have read into it this year because they're used to needing to come up with cost share on their own. And because we made that change this year, we would hope that we'd get some more applications.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Darlene and Marcy, anything else we need to cover? Doesn't sound like it.
No, I will just always emphasize, please talk to your sponsor programs office well before the deadline.
All right, great. If that's it, then we will give you back the balance of the hour. Thanks all for attending and for proposing to our programs.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
so much for the helpful information.
Thank you.